our presentation. What is insulin resistance and how to reverse it? First, let's start by simply learning what is insulin, its function, and what does it do in our body. Insulin is a hormone produced in the pancreas in beta cells, and its main function is to place the sugar in the blood from blood to the cells. Insulin resistance means that cells don't respond to insulin and don't take in blood sugar. Okay? Insulin resistance means cells are so resistant to insulin, they don't let insulin to put the sugar inside the cell. So the key is broken. Basically, the key, insulin key, is gummed up. Okay? It's not working. That's why insulin cannot open the cell and then put the sugar inside the cell. So that's the mechanism of insulin resistance. So basically, the cells are not responding to insulin. Human cells use glucose as fuel to produce energy. Therefore, the inability of sugar to enter the cells and remaining in the blood leaves the cells without nutrients and energy. And its excessive amount in the blood creates huge problems. We call this target organ damage. What are these organs that are targeted? Heart and vessels, brain, eyes and nerves, internal organs including the pancreas itself, and the kidneys. How do we break the insulin resistance? Insulin resistance is not something that occurs in a short time. It is caused by improper nutrition over many years. It may not cause any discomfort during this process. It may not give any symptoms. But in the long run, it will start giving some symptoms. So let's look at these symptoms of insulin resistance. First of all, abdominal area of fat. So the fat in the abdominal area, persistent years and years. Even skinny people have this abdominal fat. That means mainly insulin resistance. Being thirsty all the time, drinking a lot of water and urinating a lot. Dry mouth, dry throat at night, tingling in hands and feet, formation of dark spots and skin tags in the neck and upper body, fungal infections, menstrual irregularity in women, not feeling full despite eating a large amount of food, large meals, and needing to eat something sweet after the meals and feeling sleepy. If you have most of these symptoms, it may be a sign of insulin resistance. So you should go to your doctor, get your A1C checked to see if you have diabetes type 2. So why do cells become resistant to insulin? The biggest reason for insulin resistance is that cells are filled to the brim with fat and there is no room for sugar. In addition, since cells are not fat storage organs and are not designed that way, the fat inside the cell creates a toxic environment. On the other hand, the pancreas constantly produces insulin. Because there is high sugar alarms from the blood, pancreas constantly producing insulin. And both high sugar and high insulin trapped in the bloodstream cause a lot of damage to the vessels and organs in the long run. Invasion of pancreas by fat cells and constant insulin production puts great strain on the pancreas and eventually causes the insulin producing beta cells to die. So when the beta cells die, you become insulin dependent. you become injectable insulin dependent. So you have to take insulin from outside as if you have type 1 diabetes. So you literally become type 1 at the end of the uncontrolled diabetes for years and years. To reiterate briefly, what belongs inside the cells is sugar, not fat. If there is excess fat in the cells, there is no room for sugar. And when insulin knocks on the door to let the sugar in, the cell door does not open. This condition is called insulin resistance. As it's known, the number of patients with type 2 diabetes throughout the world is unfortunately increasing day by day. And despite many medical treatment options, people die early due to complications of the disease. If insulin resistance is not corrected and diabetes is not controlled, patients' quality of life will be diminished and they will face problems such as dialysis, foot leg amputations, neuropathy pain in hands and feet, and this will affect the patient's mobility. A lot of our patients cannot walk because of the neuropathy pains. These patients will have obesity, blindness, Alzheimer's, impotence in men, ovarian cyst and infertility in women. So very low quality of life living with diabetes, and so progressive. Here the disease itself is insulin resistance, right? So, and the treatment of the method, the cure should be reversing the insulin resistance, because human cells are designed to burn carbohydrates as energy. So if carbohydrate cannot enter the cell will remain hungry and cannot produce any energy. That's why diabetic patients are always hungry and tired. Okay. As we have emphasized, the insulin resistance is the fat accumulation in the cells. When the cells are full of fat, their doors don't open, and then our goal should be remove the fat from the cell. In this way, the cells will empty, relax, and be able to absorb the sugar easily. In this way, type 2 diabetes will gradually disappear. With this approach, even the patients with type 1 diabetes will have their cells more sensitive to insulin. Yeah, insulin sensitivity, insulin resistance is a problem with type 1 diabetes people too. So, if their cells are sensitive to insulin, their need for insulin will decrease and they will be able to reduce the amount of insulin they inject daily. As some of you know, the main reason for type 1 diabetes is that the pancreas does not produce insulin. So they have to take insulin from outside. This is called insulin-dependent diabetes. As an autoimmune disease, it usually begins in childhood. In this presentation, we're not going to talk about type 1 diabetes. That's a whole total different subject. So, how do we remove these harmful fat molecules from our cells? According to research, what put the patients to remission to reverse the insulin resistance is the weight loss of 15 kilograms, which is 33 pounds. So, the main method, the main thing that's going to solve insulin resistance is weight loss. So also this is achieved by waist circumference below 35 inches for women, below 40 inches for men. So that's how we can achieve metabolic health and reverse insulin resistance. How will we do that? First of all, by removing all processed foods from our diet. If you cannot make it in your kitchen, don't eat it. Eat everything as a whole, how it comes from nature. So eliminating processed food is the half of the deal. Because according to studies, according to all the research, 60% of Americans eat is junk food, unfortunately, processed food. So more than half actually. If you remove the processed food, it means that you already almost reached your goal. But if you're not eating processed food, so let's look at the other ways. So how do we reverse insulin resistance, lose 33 pounds and shrink our waist? So there are two main methods for that. One, calorie restriction. The other one is no calorie restriction. So calorie restriction, how do we achieve that? Cutting down on the portion size. So portion size reduction and counting calories daily, or intermittent fasting. So two ways: counting calories, calorie restriction, and intermittent fasting. And let's look at the without calorie restriction. If you don't want to reduce your calories, if you want to eat all day long without any calorie restriction until you're full, you either need to reduce the carbs or reduce the fat intake. As you can see, when you eat both fat and carbohydrates together, the body prefers to burn carbohydrates and the fat is stored. The other method you can do, if you don't want to reduce your calories, you can increase the exercise. You can add more, you can do weightlifting. If you've been just walking, you need to do more hours put into the exercise. That's how you can achieve the weight loss without reducing the calories. Okay, but at first in this weight reduction, we don't want you to focus just like 15 kilo. How am I going to lose 33 pounds? So we want you to set small goals. For example, tell yourself, I'll just lose 2 pounds. Even that 2 pounds is going to make big difference in your insulin sensitivity and your blood sugar control. Okay? Make smart, small goals first. And here also those 24-hour blood glucose monitors. So those continuous blood glucose monitors play a big role. If you can get that, you will see your daily trends, what kind of food makes your blood sugar rise. So with that incoming data, continuous incoming data, you will be able to control your blood sugar by just looking at what you ate previous meal, and then you avoid that. So that's going to be like, it's like kind of like self-discipline. That's going to show you like instant gratification. It's going to show you what made your blood sugar rise, and then you avoid that food. So those continuous blood glucose monitors are really helpful. So I'm using one of those. They just like, you just can see what you did not do, how exercise reduces your blood sugar, for example. So you're going to be able to see those right away. Okay, reducing portion size, calorie counting. So how do we do that? You calculate your basal metabolic rate and don't exceed that amount every day. So we want to get our basic metabolic rate, and we won't exceed or we won't go down from that caloric need, because otherwise we're going to make our metabolism slower that we don't want. So how do we calculate that? So you go to your ideal weight. So from the BMI index, you calculate your ideal weight. You put your height and then you look at the chart. You need to be between 18 and 24 BMI. So let's say 24 BMI, 50, let's say your ideal weight is 50 kilo, like 110 pounds, right? So how do you calculate your caloric intake daily for that 110 pounds? We basically multiply it by 10. We just put a 0 next to that 110, which is 1,100 calories every day you consume. That's the example for 50 kilo person, like 110 pound person. So how do we do that? How do we enter those calories? So there are those apps, MyFitnessPal, Chronometer, Lose It. So every meal we're roughly going to calculate, and you know how much, let's say 1 apple, 1 banana, we're going to put those, whatever we ate, we're going to put the calories in, and we're trying not to exceed that calorie amount allowed on that day. So every day we're going to do that. It's very tedious if you want to lose the weight that way. So the other one is intermittent fasting. If you do intermittent fasting, for example, you do 14-hour, 16-hour fasting, or all the way to, some people do 18, 20. So if you want to do like 1 meal a day or 2 meals a day, you're automatically reducing your calorie amount because you're just skipping a meal, right? So some people prefer that. They want to eat until they are full. They just want to skip the meals. So after eating our last meal of the day, the blood sugar level and the insulin level gradually decrease, and approximately 14 hours later, the sugar stores in the muscles and liver are emptied, and our body goes into fat burning mode to produce energy. During this transition process, many things change metabolically at the cell level. It is as if a magic wand touched our body. So the body switches the fuel source from carb burning to fat burning. So that's one of the ways to do that. Okay. So if we don't want to do calorie restriction, what do? We say we either cut the carbs or we cut the fat, right? Those two energy sources. So, cutting the carbs, we know the diet is called ketogenic diet, right? The majority of the doctors around the world, and even the dietitians, they started recommending ketogenic diets to treat the patients with type 2 diabetes. They start the medications and they tell the patient to eat low carb. That's understandable because when we eat carbs, blood sugar rises, right? So they're just trying to prevent that. Since the blood sugar rises when eating carbohydrates, they think they need to restrict the carbohydrates to below 50 grams. So mainly it is like eating more animal-based diet, animal fat, animal protein. So let's examine the low carb or no carb nutrition method, this ketogenic nutrition. In this method, patients increase their intake of animal fat and protein, and the cells are forced to burn fat instead of carbohydrates as energy source, right? This is a difficult process for the body and cells because, as I just mentioned, human cells are designed to primarily to burn carbohydrates and sugar. Since carbohydrates don't enter the cells, energy cannot be produced and patients feel weak. They eventually get fat adapted, but it takes a while. It compromises the immune system, compromises the energy metabolism. Patients are like weak, like they even call it keto flu. It hits your immune system badly. So that's why people get that keto flu when they switch to keto diet. People can lose weight on this fat-based diet. There's no question. They stop the carbohydrates, they will lose the fat, like fast. They are eating fat, they are also losing fat. So if that's the goal, like 15 kilos weight loss, 33 pounds, if you just want to do this ketogenic diet just to lose weight, that's okay. Short term is okay. It's just like there are long-term risks. That's why they don't even do studies with these diets, long-term studies. Yeah, like longest studies, I think like maybe even a year, like that's it. So in a study, in many studies, they do these, short-term ketogenic diet studies, but they realize at the end of the study, insulin resistance is not resolved. So, you're keeping the blood sugar in control, A1C reduced, but as soon as they start eating carbs, they will see that insulin resistance have not been resolved. So they are they become intolerant to carbs. So in a study conducted by the Texas Health Science Institute, prolonged keto diets caused premature aging of cells in laboratory animals, especially the heart and the kidneys. But when done intermittently, like intermittent keto diet, so cycling, this rapid aging was not observed. So if you can do it intermittently to lose weight, you can try it. But the side effects are too many. That's why a lot of people cannot sustain it long time. But as we said earlier, if you want to just do it, 33-pound weight loss, you can do it in short term. So lowering the fat with plant-based diet. Let's see. So with ketogenic diet, we lower the carbs, we increase the fat, right? So with the plant-based diet, we're lowering the fat, we're eating carbohydrates, mainly carbohydrates, like 80% carbohydrates in your diet. So how do we do that? Why is it good? The fiber is the main player here. The fiber slows down the absorption of carbohydrates. It prevents blood sugar spikes. It prevents insulin resistance. It reverses the insulin resistance. That way, eliminates the type 2 diabetes. That's actually how I did. I had type 2 diabetes 15 years ago. My A1C was 6.8. I switched to plant-based diet. It was mainly plant-based, like 95% plant-based at first, and in the last 10 years it's completely plant-based, 100%. And no oils, no added oils. I mean, there's no diet that's no oils, because even essential oils, even in apple there is oil, right? Even in broccoli, even in broccoli, even like blueberries, there are omega-3 fatty acids. So there is no such thing, no fat diet. So it's low fat diet, okay? So high carb, low fat diet. So in this plant-based low fat diet, we will have enough energy in our cells, in our body. In addition to its benefits for type 2 diabetes, plant-based nutrition prevents cancer, protects heart health, binds toxins, and removes the toxins from our body. It feeds the good bacteria in our gut and produces happiness hormone, which is called serotonin, thus protects and improves mental health and balances the immune system as well. Okay, so plant-based diet may be hard for people who have not eaten plant-based in their life, not long time, maybe here and there, a little bit vegetables, broccoli, fruits. So it may be intimidating at first, but the variety and how you feel after you eat plant-based meals and, you know, reversing and preventing the disease, I think it's worth trying. Just try 1 or 2, 3 weeks. You'll see how you feel. And that's actually what made me decide on the plant-based diet. It just felt so good. My digestion, everything is improved. So that's why I stayed vegan. I stayed on the plant-based diet. And to this day, I'm still doing plant-based. And actually, I do intermittent fasting too. I have to say that. You know, I do like long 36 to 40 hour intermittent fasts regularly, like at least once a week. I do, sometimes I do twice. I try to do 14 to 16 hour every day. So, but during the day I keep snacking because I do mainly raw vegan, like I'm high raw, like 80% raw in my plant-based diet. Yeah, I do, you know, continuous snacking. And also I do have continuous blood glucose monitor. So I do check my fasting blood sugars overnight, how it was running, my trend, do I have lows at night, you know, highs. So that was very eye-opening for me. I think it's like priceless. If you wanna invest on it for 2 weeks and just to try, put on your arm, keep it for 2 weeks, make your notes, you know, in the app you can even make notes what you ate, and then, you know, in 2 hours you see how it did to your blood pressure, blood sugar, and then over the night to see if that kind of food gave you low numbers, like, you know, like 50s, 60s, like even lower than that. So then you're gonna avoid that food. So it is very eye-opening. I highly recommend that. Okay, so if you don't want to reduce the calories, the other thing you can do is increasing the exercise, right? So try to move more. If you don't want to reduce any calories, if you don't want to do any diet change, what else do you have left? You just need to exercise more, right? Human body is created to move. So it's not only good for diabetes, for many diseases, you know, to reverse insulin resistance, okay? But, you know, the insulin resistance starts in the muscles, right? If you work the muscles, just, you know, that domino effect, you know, if you reduce the insulin resistance in the muscle, okay, you just solve the problem anyway. So how do we do that? At least walking 30 minutes after meals, okay, once a day. You can break it down to twice a day if you want, but, you know, only walking is not gonna solve your problem if you don't wanna do any diet changes. So yeah, the largest group of muscles are your leg muscles, like quadriceps. They are gonna suck the sugar out of your blood like, you know, like sponge. So that's why running, walking, and cycling, like within 30 minutes after the meals, that's gonna do magic for sure. And if you have a blood glucose monitor, you're gonna be able to see that on it, like, you know, how it like drops slowly. Okay, so what did we say? Muscles are very metabolically active. They are gonna do good at least 30 minutes. If you especially make it like you sweat, it's gonna help you a lot. It's from the other aspects too. Woman, you need exercise, right? You wanna prevent osteoporosis. For your hormone health, brain health, you know, like longevity. So the benefits of exercise is like endless. Okay, so let's wrap it up again. The main thing, if you want to reduce, if you want to reverse, put your insulin resistance in remission. The most effective indicator was 15 kilo. It means 33 pound weight loss, right? How are we going to achieve that? Okay. So we do it eliminating all the processed food. And then we have two methods. One with calorie restriction, one without calorie restriction. What did we say for the calorie restriction? We're going to either count the calories daily. We're going to put it on an app. We're going to find our ideal weight, ideal metabolism rate, and ideal calories daily. We're going to calculate that. And we're not going to exceed that amount. So we gave the example of 50 kilo person, 110 pounds. And that person is not going to exceed 1,100 calories a day. And the other way is not counting the calories and doing intermittent fasting. You're basically eliminating 1 or 2 meals a day, and you're automatically reducing the calories daily. And second method was no calorie restriction, right? But that way we're either gonna cut the carbs or cut the fat, right? Or we're gonna do heavy exercise. So cut the carb is the keto diet. We said it has long-term side effects. And cut the fat is the vegan plant-based diet, at least 90%. That's why I said plant-based, the base is plant, like at least 90%. So that way there is no side effect. There are good side effects. You're going to prevent the heart disease, prevent cancers, prevent, mental diseases. You're going to live long. So that's why plant-based is the way to go, in my opinion. But to lose that 15 kilos, to lose that 33 pounds, whatever works for you, okay? Just don't get intimidated. Make small goals. 2 pounds, okay? I lose 2 pounds this week, okay? So just lose that weight. Remove the fat from the cells and become insulin sensitive, and maybe later on you're gonna be able to eat the carbs without any problem, but good carbs we're talking about, right? So this is how we're going to reduce the insulin resistance. Yeah, exercise heavily is the last method. If you don't want to do any calorie restriction, if you don't want to do any dietary change, you're just going to heavily exercise.